Hi everyone, welcome back to my greenhouse. My name's Joe. Thanks for joining me, thanks for watching this video. You know, I'm quite frequently asked, what actually was the first cactus that you grew, or what is the oldest cactus in your collection? You know, you may or may not be surprised, but I'm actually sitting next to two of the oldest spiky companions that I have in my collection. These two Golden Barrel Cacti, or Echinocactus grusonii, or grusonii, I got these two as presents when I was 13 years old. I got them from a collector who was actually growing cacti from seeds, and he had grown these two from seeds. And when I received them as presents, they were about 3 years, maybe 4 years old. And they were tiny. They were about, well, less than an inch in diameter, maybe 2 centimeters. That was back in 1973. So almost 50 years ago, these two Echinocacti were, like I say, about 3 years old, grown from seed, and they've been with me since. They've been through thick and thin, literally. These two were some of the first cacti that I received and that I grew as a kid. And I also had a couple of Mammillarias, I had a Parodia, I had an Opuntia or two, some Echinopsis, and like I say, I had these two wonderful cacti that were tiny at the time. They haven't always had the huge advantage of growing in a greenhouse. Most of their lives they've actually been growing on windowsills indoors, which is why I reckon that, I mean, they are very slow growing to start off with, a very slow growing species of cactus, but given that they were also growing all these years mainly indoors, I think they've, you know, developed particularly slowly, but nevertheless they're catching up now. The last couple of years they've been enjoying the climate here in my greenhouse. You know, the fact that they are over 50 years old is something that I'm hoping will actually show when it comes to showing their first flowers. They haven't actually flowered so far at all. What I've read is that, you know, they need to be a certain size, 12 or 14 inches or so in diameter, before they can actually start flowering. But I'm wondering whether that also is a factor of course, where they are living. So if they're in a particularly ideal climate and, you know, ideal growing conditions, then of course they will develop a certain size after so and so many years. These, as I say, are probably relatively small for their age, but that's going to be the interesting bit now that they're in the greenhouse. I'm wondering whether in the next couple of years they may actually eventually be showing their first flowers. I'm sure you've seen these cacti flowering in botanical gardens, for example, maybe even in your own collection if you're growing these in nice climates. They have a ring of relatively small but beautiful yellowish flowers, and like I say, they're usually showpieces in every botanical garden collection of cacti. One of the interesting differences between the two is that, you know, they are the same age. They were grown from the same batch of seed, probably from the same parent plant. Now, this specimen here remained as a single individual stem. This one here, on the other hand, at one point was actually damaged at the main growing axis, the central axis of the plant. And I can't remember whether it was due to rot or whether it was a infestation with pests, but something happened that actually triggered this specimen to start growing several heads, so actually pups if you like, from the main mother plant. And so today it's got 4 growing axes, 4 heads to this specimen here. They're all coming from the same root. Now, of course, I'm also often asked, what are the ideal cacti for beginners? Well, these are fantastic examples of cacti that I would recommend any beginner to grow. You know, if you have a nice, bright, sunny place for them, they'll really thrive. Don't give them too much water. Like all cacti, you know, keep them in a very well draining substrate or cactus succulent soil mix. Add quite a bit of sand, grit, gravel in order to keep that substrate nice and water draining. Don't overwater them. They are quite prone to rot, and because they're such slow growers, you also shouldn't really try and speed up their growth by fertilizing them too much. There's a huge danger that actually through too much watering or too much nutrients, too much fertilizing, they will actually split the outer skin, so the epidermis will actually split open, and then usually what happens, unfortunately, is that you get fungi actually entering the plant and starting to spread, and then the whole plant is at risk of actually rotting away, unfortunately. So, you know, they are slow growers and they appreciate hard, tough growing conditions, hot, sunny, quite dry. In hot summers, obviously water them more frequently, but always make sure, like with many cacti, that the actual soil dries out properly before the next time you're watering again. There are actually a number of cultivars, so especially bred forms of Echinocactus grusonii, which are offered in plant nurseries. There's a white spined version of the Echinocactus grusonii. There is a form that has no spines. It's a forma nudum. There is also the cultivar brevispinum. No matter which variety, form, or cultivar of Echinocactus grusonii you choose to grow, they're all worthwhile growing, they're all beautiful, and they're all really grand cacti to have in every collection. It's certainly a beautiful sight, these golden barrel cactuses, and you can see where they get their name from. In nature, they can actually form huge barrel-shaped stems, and the golden spines really glow up in the evening sun. So definitely really cool cacti, definitely worth growing. I can wholeheartedly recommend growing Echinocactus grusonii, the golden barrel cactus. You will find them quite easily in most plant nurseries, plant centers, garden centers, supermarkets even. They're usually the most common of the cacti offered. They are very common in cultivation, but unfortunately they're actually quite rare and certainly endangered in their natural habitats in Mexico. So all the more a pleasure to actually be growing such wonderful mother plants and also knowing the age and the history behind them. I hope you like this little story behind the Echinocactus grusoniis growing in my collection. Like I say, the 2 longest serving spiky comrades, and certainly very close to my heart. Let me know if you've got experiences of your own with golden barrel cacti, and especially around the question that I've been asking myself, you know, is it more the age or is it the size that drives the start, the onset of flowering with these cacti? Drop a line, write a comment if you like, and I'd really appreciate that. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd really appreciate if you clicked a like Or if you haven't yet, then it would be fantastic if you actually subscribe to my channel. Remember to click the bell icon. That will actually ensure that you receive automatic notifications of new video uploads. Right, that's it. Take care and happy growing.